What your balance felt like?
Lamont Roach and Gervonta Davis fight deal is showing up quite well for boxing fans, and soon enough the fight would have the engagement of even the gas who had sworn not to watch the fight. While Gervonta Davis has been relatively quiet, Lamont Roach has been doing so much to intensify the build-up and give fans a hint of what they're about to see on fight night.
Oh, stop closing up. Gotta let it go. Keep turning, step around.
In all sincerity, Lamont Roach needs a benefit of doubt from boxing fans to increase his confidence and enable him to get the most desired prize on fight night, a victory over Gervonta "Tank" Davis to clinch the World Boxing Association title. Now Lamont Roach has assessed a recent training footage of Gervonta Davis and tweeted on X before eventually deleting the same tweet, "Easy work there." It was a random tweet that only those who had followed the progression of his tweets or saw Gervonta Davis's training footage would understand his intention. Shortly before this, he tweeted a response to a fan who wrote, "We are whipping DC bum for the rest of the year, Ravens today, Tank in December." To this, Lamont Roach responded, "This stuff is different over here," claiming he won't be a victim of Tank Davis when they eventually lock horns in the ring. All of these culminated in his tweet about Tank Davis's training session. And really, Lamont Roach has some good work to do in hyping himself up ahead of the fight. He's in such a situation where he needs to focus on the gym and focus on getting a huge payday. Hence, this requires him to keep trying to make an impression before the fight and get Gervonta Davis involved in a serious feud with him. But if you ask me, I'd suggest he gets locked in training to work on everything that needs to be worked on and perfect his skills as he approaches the biggest fight in his career. Maybe he has a contrary opinion though, especially when he began a social media war with Tank Davis. Despite being the World Boxing Association super featherweight champion, fans are not excited about the fight, but the boxer duo decided to hype up the clash when both of them got into a war of words on X, as Roach tried to troll the WBA lightweight champion just to receive a stellar response.
135, so I don't blame him for fighting that way, but he's not a big 35. I don't see why people like, oh, you brought up a smaller guy, woo-de-woo, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like...
The argument started when heavyweight boxer Marcellus Williams asked Davis about the camp fees to spar with the champion. Williams wanted to work on his skills and had every motivation to make the situation work. However, Lamont Roach Jr. quickly responded to the tweet and stated, "He gonna need to spar you Brano funny." Davis immediately asked the meaning behind the post, and Roach quoted a fan reaction who explained the tweet. Roach quoted a fan reply who wrote, "Translation, you need to spar someone heavy cause he coming with it," explaining the meaning behind Roach's tweet. According to the Reaper, the 30-0 boxer needs to spar against heavier boxers before their fight in December. And even though Davis is thinking of an easy fight, Roach will take this opportunity to make a name for himself and increase his stocks.
To me personally, I'm not stunned that. You know what I'm saying? They're going to keep saying that. They're going to keep saying that. You know what I'm saying? I fight at 130 because that's what I campaigned at. That's why I started my career.
Tank did not let the disrespect go idly as he responded and wrote, "I advise you not to talk so much. It can be bad for you. You know that already though, yo." Stating that Roach should do the talking inside the ring and not online, he further warned Roach about the consequences of making the World Boxing Association lightweight champion angry. The war of words quickly picked up steam from there as Roach struck back and stated that he was not like the other guys Davis had fought before. Over the years, Tank has been accused of handpicking his opponents. Roach wrote, "You must think I'm one of those regular you fought or summed. LOL, cut it out, measy," making sure that the Baltimore native knows it won't be like his previous fights. Even though he is from a lower weight class, he wants this fight and will do anything and everything to shock the world. Gervonta Davis once again decided to control his words and indicated that he would do the talking in the ring.
This between us both. already, that we competed twice before in 2 close fights in the amateurs, and that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
He quoted Reaper's tweet and just wrote, "Say nothing," expressing his superiority over the World Boxing Association super featherweight champion. This online war has created some hype for the fight. The fight will take place at 135 pounds, and the World Boxing Association lightweight title will be on the line. Lamont Roach is a good fighter. He's technically sound. He's a championship-level fighter. But as far as opponents for Gervonta Tank Davis in a pay-per-view event go, I'd prefer to see someone who has produced explosive performance at the highest level, or at least is a polarizing personality. Davis is a bona fide pay-per-view star. Whether you agree that so many of his fights should have been on pay-per-view, and I disagreed with most of them, he's been established on pay-per-view for a while now. What's been lacking is the proper opposition necessary to charge those kinds of fees. Roach is a solid fighter, but he hasn't reached the pinnacle, and I also don't think he's the nature of character to compensate for that. He's had success at super featherweight, but it's taken him a while to do so. If he'd made numerous title defenses, a fight between him and Davis might make more sense, but he's made one, against Fergal McCrory. We've seen Davis in this sort of fight before, such as against Hector Luis Garcia, who since being stopped by Davis has only lost a split decision to Roach. But then that's become the pay-per-view model. Once a fighter has that status, he stays on pay-per-view regardless of his opposition.
I wanted to get your thoughts. I appreciate you, Carmel. I wanted to get your thoughts, Danny, on the Tank Roach thing. So just your thoughts on the fight in general. What do you think about the fight?
Frank Martin, Davis's past opponent, is also a solid fighter, and unlike Roach, is established at lightweight. He'd been on course to fight Shakur Stevenson, and he'd produced some good performances that meant there was a curiosity surrounding him at the highest level. There's no question Davis is of the highest level, which is why the careful selection of his opposition is frustrating. It's also relevant that Roach, who is spoken about highly by those who know him, isn't the biggest of super featherweights, where he still appears capable of making defenses of his World Boxing Association title, and that Davis is such a powerful lightweight. If Davis is the biggest star in the division, and Stevenson is his biggest rival, then I feel similarly about this fight to how I did when Stevenson was matched with Joe Cordina.
Do you think that it was the right opponent for Tank?
I think it's a good, solid fight. You know, Lamont is a champion. He is coming up one weight class.
It feels more like the sort of fight that would be acceptable if Davis Stevenson was made, and then Stevenson had to pull out with an injury and be replaced. If we could be confident Davis Stevenson would come next, it would make far more sense, but it doesn't even seem close. Davis has to be considered a heavy favorite. With respect to Roach, if he won, it would be the upset of the year, and a matchup capable of producing the upset of the year shouldn't be on pay-per-view.
But Tank fought at 130 before too, so they both really 130 pounders fighting at 135. It's a good, solid fight.
A lightweight fight I'm much more positive about is William Zepeda Tevin Farmer. Farmer presents Zepeda with a different style as he continues to move up in level. Farmer's a former world champion and a very crafty southpaw. And by fighting him, Zepeda's strengthening his hopes of fighting Davis or Stevenson in the future. Southpaws are largely dominant at lightweight, which makes Farmer a very suitable opponent and one capable of showing us where Zepeda, who so far has been impressive, is at. Farmer may be past his best, but Zepeda isn't defending a world title, and there are fights on the undercard of that between Chris Billam-Smith and Gilberto Ramirez. I anticipate moments where Farmer's on top and testing Zepeda, even if I expect Zepeda to both learn from him and win.
But Tank fought at 130 before too, so they both really 130 pounders fighting at 135. It's a good, solid fight.
As a side note, when Stevenson Cordina was announced, we were also told we could expect Stevenson Zepeda and then Stevenson Davis in 2025. Stevenson being with Matchroom and DAZN, the broadcaster Zepeda's fighting on, albeit under Golden Boy Promotions, means a fight between them wouldn't come as a surprise. But I see very little reason to believe Stevenson Davis will happen after that. Matchroom has no say over Davis's movements. I'm happy to go on record as writing that I don't believe Stevenson Davis will happen in 2025, and while I expect Stevenson Zepeda to take place, it will be late in the year instead of early, as we've also been told. However, when asked what his views on the Gervonta Davis-Lamont Roach fight were, promoter Eddie Hearn said that Roach is a good fighter and that the overall reaction to the fight was unfair. Following the announcement of the clash, scheduled for December 14th, many were surprised by the choice of Roach as Davis's opponent.
Announcement of the Gervonta Davis-Roach fight.
I think that, it's had a lot of criticism, but
Gervonta Tank Davis, with a perfect record of 30-0 with 28 KOs, is on a 21-fight streak of victories by knockout or technical knockout, barring his decision win against Isaac Pitbull Cruz. He last fought in June, knocking out Frank Martin in the 8th round, using his speed and power to outclass Martin. Meanwhile, Roach, a junior lightweight champion, is gaining weight to face Davis, one of boxing's most dominant knockout assassins.
You gotta look for him,
Mm-hmm.
If you switch it up now, it ain't gonna do too much. We don't have enough time to switch it up,
So what would you say that Martin's probably like stronger suit is more fighting on the back?
Some fans feel like Davis picked a weaker opponent to fight and maintain his perfect record because the fight lacks the excitement and competitiveness a matchup against another top lightweight contender could have offered. Hearn claims that Tank, the WBA lightweight champion, had no choice but to avoid these fighters for various reasons. Ryan Garcia is suspended, Shakur Stevenson is injured, Isaac Pitbull Cruz was recently beaten, Devin Haney, overcome Vasily Lomachenko, made the decision to miss the rest of 2024.
I won't be doing my phases for this one because we know the family,
Yeah.
That thing is getting.
Tank Davis has the option to fight Eden De Los Santos, Andy Cruz, Keyshawn Davis, and Raymond Muratalla, but none of them are as well known as Lamont Roach. There wouldn't be a spike in PPV purchases over Tank Davis's choice of Roach, even if he had chosen one of them, and casual boxers wouldn't know who they are. I think the online reaction is a little bit unfair. Lamont Roach is a good fighter. The problem is, no one knows who he is, and with Tank's position in the sport, people want him in big fights, and it's not a big fight. If you know your boxing, you know it's a good fight. He's a super featherweight. But what were the available options for Tank, really? Eddie Hearn said in an interview with Fight Hub TV.
not a bad fight. Lamont Roach is a world champion. He's smaller than Gervonta Davis. The problem is not many people are aware of who he is or his ability. But he can.
The outcry has been sparked by more than just the fact that nobody knows who Roach is, but boxing enthusiasts who are sure Roach is incapable. Although this is a difficult fight for Roach, 29, it is an opportunity for him to elevate his career as he will face one of boxing's biggest names. He is a skilled and crafty fighter with a strong chin, and if he can capitalize on Davis's tendency to start slow, there is a slim chance he could make the fight competitive and secure an early victory.
I see a nice competitive fight.
Nice competitive fight.
Yeah. He's not gonna fight like Martin. He got a more come forward style.
While Davis remains a massive draw in boxing, the fight has left some fans underwhelmed, hoping for a more marquee matchup against top contenders in his weight class. Within a week of their fight announcement, he sent shots on X, formerly Twitter, and has even graced a live interview where he had so much to say about Tank. Although many critics have pointed out the weight difference between the two, Roach does not believe it will affect the outcome of the fight. This bout will be for Davis's WBA title in a pay-per-view event.
135, so I don't blame him for fighting that way. But he's not a big 35. I don't see why people like, oh, you brought up a smaller guy, woo-de-woo, blah, blah.
Roach explained in an interview with Najee Grampus of Cigar Talk that, despite critics' opinions, Davis is not the biggest lightweight. Everybody he fights is damn near bigger than him, Roach said. The only person that was smaller than him was Isaac Cruz. And that's just in height.
They heated and they start trading words, then I gotta do my face.
Yeah, no, I hear you. You gotta respond.
Other than that, cool. Be cool.
Yeah.
Even though Lamont Roach currently competes in the 130-pound division, his plan was always to move up to 135 pounds to capture another title. I fight at 130 because that's where I campaign. That's where I started my career. That's where I worked my way up to a world title, Roach explained.
To me personally, I'm not stunned that. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna keep saying that. They're gonna keep saying that. You know what I'm saying? I fight at 130 because that's what I campaigned at. That's why I started my career.
He also made it clear that the decision to move up came earlier than expected. However, he feels ready to face Davis in this new weight class. Lamont Roach, who holds a record of 25 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, has competed at the 130-pound limit since 2017. Before that, he weighed around 131 or 132 pounds, though in his early professional fights, he weighed more than 134 pounds. When a boxer is starting their career, they don't necessarily have to make 130 pounds because we're not in title contention or none of that, Roach explained. On the other hand, Gervonta Davis, a 29-year-old from Baltimore, has had a notable career, moving across various divisions.
That's where I campaigned. That's why I worked my way up to a world title. And that's what I was going to do. My plan was always to move up to 35 and win another title. So it just...
Davis began as a featherweight in 2013, but it was in 2017 that he established himself in the junior lightweight division after knocking out Jose Pedraza for a world title. Since then, he has fought in several weight classes, including lightweight and junior welterweight, before returning to 135 pounds. Both fighters have a slight height difference. Roach stands at 170 meters, while Davis is 165 meters tall, reinforcing the idea that the physical difference will not be a decisive factor in the fight.
35 fights, like when a boxer starting their career, they don't necessarily have to make 130 pounds because we're not in title contention.
Lamont Roach emphasized that his opponent feels comfortable at 135 pounds, but doesn't consider him a big lightweight. Earlier, Gervonta Davis was of the belief that Lamont Roach isn't any better than the last 30 boxing fighters he defeated. Hence, he should remain calm and humble until the day of punishment, where he would be low-key punished.
You know what I'm saying? But what I'm getting at is I dominated Hector. I dropped Hector. Yeah. I heard him before I dropped him. And they still...
But no, Lamont Roach doesn't want a silent win. He wants whoever would emerge victorious to be as loud and courageous as possible. He even called out Frank Martin and claimed he would never show up in a fight as cowardly as Frank Martin did. Hence, he's set to change the narrative at this juncture. But can he really do that? You probably saw the fierce exchange they had on X, formerly Twitter. But there was so much more than that. This fight once again proves the stardom of Tank, as he was once again allowed to handpick a challenger. Fans were not happy with the announcement, as Roach is quite unproven against top stars like Tank. Furthermore, he will have a disadvantage coming from a lighter weight division. However, this will be Roach's biggest fight ever, and with his title not being on the line, he can perform without much pressure. Roach will move up to 135 pounds from 130 pounds, where he holds the World Boxing Association crown and insists he is a far tougher challenge than Martin, who Tank dispatched in 8 rounds in June. Respectfully, I'm not Frank Martin, the 29-year-old told Cigar Talk. Frank Martin started boxing when he was 15? He didn't have the experience to be in there with someone as skilled and as experienced as him.
We both break bread, we get it, you know what I'm saying? It'll be a big fight.
Yeah.
So I always knew, it always been love for sure. But I always knew that right here would come because he's one of the best, and I know for 100% for a fact that I'm one of the best. You know what I'm saying? So that's...
I've got the same skill level as Tank. I've got the same experience as Tank. I've got the reflexes. I've got the ability. I've damn sure got the IQ. The Reaper has already faced Davis twice before in the amateurs, losing by decision on both occasions. The Washington man has won 6 on the bounce since dropping a unanimous decision to Jamel Herring in a bid for the World Boxing Council's super featherweight world title in 2019, securing the World Boxing Association crown with a split decision victory over Hector Luis Garcia in November 2023, whom Tank knocked out 10 months prior. Davis, who is from neighboring Baltimore, has won 28 of his 30 professional fights by knockout. However, Roach insists he has the chin to stand up to the 29-year-old's power.
And released to the public, we know now, December 14th, Houston, Texas, he's going to be facing a very tough opponent in Lamont Roach.
What makes people think I'm going to end up like those guys who didn't have the experience and skill? He added. I think I've got a nice chin. I got hit on my chin a couple of times. Ain't nobody never dropped me. Ain't nobody ever seen me hurt in no fight. the power might be a little different. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out!